The Portland Trailblazers win 2 straight for only the 3rd time this season. Scoot Henderson continues to shine. Simons fell and then rose again. Sharpe got benched, and there was a dominating sighting in Miami. Welcome to the Blazer Focus Podcast. I'm Aaron Fentress of the Oregonian and OregonLive, joined by Craig Birnbach. And Craig, let me tell you something. The past 4 days, I have been more awake on this beat.
And prolific.
And just things just all of a sudden just started happening. Like Scoot scored 39. Simons went scoreless. Then Scoot kept performing well. And then Ant got hurt, but Shaedon got benched and took it well, and people were crying about it. And then it was the midseason, and it was just like, and then my Bulls were in town, and it was just all these things were just going on and on. I found myself just doing this like constantly midseason review. It's just been popping. This is how a beat should be, when it's fun and things are happening, not when you're just waiting for the next 25-point blowout. And those things were going on right before they beat the Bulls, because they lost 4 games by like 80 points or whatever it was. It was like the most this year in a 4-game stretch. I wrote about it, forgot about it because I moved on to other things. But anyway, a lot to talk about today.
I need to pause and compliment you. Like yesterday, this is what a beat is. You don't get a ton of Blazers coverage like around the world anymore. I read 5 Aaron Fentress Blazer articles in one day.
Damn, are you okay?
I mean, some were short, thank goodness. And you didn't use any big words, so I was good. But it was amazing. You wrote about, like pregame, it was like injury update. It was a dominating performance. It was a Simons performance. It was the game piece, and it was a mid-season report. People say you're lazy. I don't know who those people are, but
Who said that?
No one says that. But I was like super impressed. I'm like, go Fentress, go.
Well, dude, things were popping.
Yeah, there you go. You got something to write about.
It was just crazy. It was like, oh my God! All of a sudden, the first few games of that homestand, they were just getting shellacked, and it was just like, oh God. And then we had the big Scoot game, but they lost by 67. If you score 50 and lose by 67, doesn't matter. I'm exaggerating, but you get my point, right? That's the thing. But then Simons going scoreless, like I said, and then Sharpe got bit. It was just like all these things were happening. It was crazy. And then they won a couple of games too, counting Miami last night. So it's been kind of interesting for the first time in a while on this beat. But let's start with real quick. We got to give them props. They're not going to win many games. They haven't won many games, but they won 2 in a row for only the 3rd time this season. We'll see if they can get 3 for only the 2nd time this season when they play at Orlando on Thursday, which I do not anticipate them winning that game. But man, only 8 turnovers. They had 0 through halftime.
0 through halftime.
This is a team that's one of the most prolific one of the most prolific turnover groups in the league. They shot well until they were shooting 40-something% on 3 until the 4th quarter. They fell off a little bit.
Let's just say they played a really, really good 3 quarters and survived the 4th. And survived the 4th.
And they survived. They were still up 22 about 8 minutes to go into the
and then it was like,
but anyway, from that point on they got their asses kicked. But they held on to win. They made, Simons made some key plays. Danny got some free throws. They got it done. They were great. Man, they were running. They had 20-something fast break points compared to 5 for the Heat. Every time I looked up, someone was running down the lane, dunking, or they had a bunch of alley-oops. It was just a really well-played game by them, and to be able to hold on like they did. So just, again, they could very easily, the rest of their schedule is rough. They could very easily not win again before the All-Star break, other than maybe Charlotte. But it's the NBA and things happen. They were a 10-point dog in this game, right? But just real quick, your impressions of that game.
Right. And Hero didn't play, which is always disappointing if you're a Blazer fan, because you would much rather won this game with Hero on the court. But look,
get some revenge.
That first half, no turnovers. That's insane.
Wild.
That's insane. This team turns the ball over getting water. and they didn't turn it over at all. It was great. And at one point, Miami, they missed like 18 straight threes. That's some of it's on them, but you got to give some credit to defense. And they played hard, and dominating played hard. And it was a very solid win on the road. And the Chicago game was a very solid victory against a team that was trying to win, a mediocre team, but a team trying to win and with a star, and they won. So I think you've got to take, in a season like this, you have to take solace in Like, enjoy the stuff that you can enjoy. And these last two games, unless you're a super pessimist and you want to talk about, well, you just hurt our flag, lottery opportunities. And for those that want to evaluate the head coach in some fashion, they played hard and they played well. So I think that and Scoot's play last night was I mean, he didn't make mistakes. He only had 11. He shot 2 for 5. He made
on 3,
a lot
which
of
is good.
Right. And from 3, 6 for 11, I think, overall. And what, he finished with 8 assists?
Yeah.
But solid. Not great compared to what he had been doing, but this was
highly efficient, efficient in his role. That's the thing.
Better. No doubt better. So let's hope that continues. It was interesting that you did it with Sharpe coming off the bench and no Kamara at all. So
exactly.
That to me, that's the thing. Like this is the only negative thing I'm going to say about this little 2-game winning streak, sure, whatever, is that we said the biggest thing that we wanted to see come out of the season, we both agreed, was clarity. And all this stuff does is cloud everything.
You just makes things even more right.
I'm just saying, like, you bench Sharpe, which is that's not clarity, right? You'd given up on Ayton. He plays well. Simons went 0 for in a game. You're like, well, I guess, that's not, and then he shoots the lights out. So, and you're kind of like, oh, Kamara's a definite starter, no doubt. Well, they played really well with him not playing. And what do you do? He had
0 points. He had a 0 point score the other night as well.
Didn't, contribute in other ways, but it's like when they lose, everyone, that's like the one thing. Well, we got one of the best defenders in the league, so that's what we're going to celebrate. But I don't know. It's just like I'm not getting clarity. I'm just not getting clarity. Like, who starts when they're healthy right now?
But here's the thing, though. It's being muddied in a positive way, as before it was muddied in like, oh, God, this. But now it's like, oh, wait a minute. There's stuff popping off here. That's what's going on.
But
it's a short, small sample size.
Yes.
Stuff. Right.
And
the thing is, it's coming. Like I checked myself too. I'm like, dude, you're all fired up about this stuff. But literally 36 hours ago, you were writing about how this team just got pasted 4 times in a row. Right. And just, so it kind of,
and Simons went, look, here's the thing. And we're going to talk about everything, but we're just throwing up right now because we're just both excited that there's stuff, right? That's kind of exciting. Is that when Simons offered, that was in the midst of a 3-game stretch of just awfulness from him. And you're just like, oh my gosh. Like,
he was 3 for 21, 2 of 12 on threes. It was bad. 24 points in 3 nights.
Like, this guy is a shell of the 23-point-a-game scorer from last year. And who would want this guy?
But prior to that, over 10 or 12 games, he was that 23 and 6.
Well, I'm just saying, like,
guy. So it was weird. He just fell off the map for 3 nights.
Coming up.
He talked about it though.
You're coming up on the deadline, and you want people to want your players,
right?
Because assets do nothing if no one wants them. And the biggest assets that we came in thinking were tradable, we didn't really think Simons was there, but we thought if Scoot went nuts and was averaging 18 and 8 right now and looking great and shooting 34% from 3, like, we'd be like, oh, well, I guess we know it's Sharpe and Simons. You didn't expect to bench Sharpe. Ayton has been, we are celebrating a 25 and 12 performance like it was, a game 6 win in the NBA Finals because of what we've seen.
Or it was his rookie year.
Right,
He's in year 6 or 7, right?
And you traded for him thinking he was the number 1 piece in the exchange separate trade, but with Lillard. So I'm just saying, like, Robert Williams, Ayton, Grant, and if you throw Simons and Thibault in there as tradable things that that either if you're trading Simons, it's for something, right? Or somebody's moved him out. The other 4 you would trade because you don't see them as a future. None of them are like, people aren't lining up for that right now.
Right.
Grant's had a bad year. Ayton's had a bad year. Thibault can't stay, hasn't gotten on the court. Williams has barely played. So And then you have Simons, who people want to trade him now because they're like, well, he's not that good. Like if he was averaging 24 a game or 25, like some people who are on this podcast imagined would happen,
and he's done it in stretches,
then you would be like, of course, your whole thing all the time was like, he's by far their best player. Well, he has not been their best player. So, and Grant hasn't been their best player. So
you mean this year? This year, even though he's been down, he's been their best player this year. That's the scary
Denny. I'm going with Denny. Yeah, okay, I know you're probably right. You're probably right. And that is sad, right? They don't have a 20-point score. But anyway, the last 2 games, that's what you want to see. If they can play this way, does it raise, is Ayton excited to play again? Is he trying to get traded? I don't know, but I'd much rather see him go out and get a 25 and 12 and look like an offensive problem for teams than a guy that plays 25 minutes and goes 1 for 4.
So here's what Ayton does. This happens with a lot of NBA players. If you play 65, 70 games, you can sleepwalk through the entire season. But there's going to be some nights where everything just goes your way and you're going to cough up a 26 and 12. It's just probability and math. The thing with Ayton is that when it's tough, right? When things aren't going your way, he doesn't find a way to adapt and change his game and impact play and winning in a different way. He just sort of like fades into the back. What happened? That's why some people wonder if he's truly a winning player, because a winning player is going to do a bunch of stuff no matter how things are going to help their team win, not be up and down and disappear sometimes. And he's too talented to disappear. That's what's frustrating about him. The 14 games leading up to the last night, he was averaging 10 and 9.
It's crazy.
And that's with Klingon and Robert coming in and out of the lineup. That's with his talent level. He should never go 14 games averaging 10 and 9. It doesn't make any sense. Now, is it all his fault? Are they running things for him? Regardless, if you're that guy, you're rolling out on the court and getting 20 and 12, no matter what. Anyway, that's just my opinion on that. Now let's shift to Simons real quick. Simons didn't talk after the Ofer night. He disappeared. It's so funny. Sometimes by the time we get in the locker room, there's just as obvious. Some people are just gone. He was gone. Don't blame him.
By the way, I'll just say this. My favorite back in the day, he's lifting. Because guys do lift afterward.
Yeah.
But like when they lift after, they don't lift when they make the game winner and score 40. They lift after.
Right, they're not lifting. Yeah, they're lifting a smoothie at their locker room, waiting for the me to come in. Yeah. I dropped 40. You want to talk to me, right? But when he came back, or the next game, he only had 13, but he talked, and it was crazy because he had a tough time getting his sweatshirt on.
Oh wow!
And then I was like, oh, he's gonna be out. And of course, he missed the next game against the Bulls. But anyway, he talked about because Denny was out, so Scoot and then Sharpe got benched. No, Sharpe got benched that night. Anyway, Scoot ended up in the starting lineup a couple nights.
Yep.
And Simons admitted that threw him off, not because anything Scoot was doing, because Ant's mentality this season has been trying to be a point guard and not just go out there and score 30. He's trying to get people involved. And so sometimes he's passing up opportunities and he's trying to find his place, right? My thing is, I'm like, no, I think he should do the opposite. I think his mentality should be, if there's a shot for me to take, that's a good shot, I'm taking it, screw everybody else. And then by doing that, that'll naturally lead to opportunities, which is what Dame did. Dame would go out and average 29, but still give you 8 or 9 assists because of that mentality. But anyway, when Scoot comes in, now Scoot's the point, right? And so Simons should be focusing on being the 2 like he did with Dame, but still Simons will get the ball and still try and be a facilitator. And so one of the reasons why he wasn't scoring a lot was not just because he was shooting poorly. He was barely shooting. He had a half. He shot 5 shots and a half. That's insane. He should be shooting whenever he has a shot. So anyway, that kind of messed him up. But then in Miami, he came out and just came out shooting, not taking bad shots, taking good shots. Granted, he was hot, but that's how he needs to be regardless of who's next to him in the backcourt. So, and that's what's been frustrating me all season, because that dude should be, especially in a situation where you're not going to win anyway. It's not like you're trying to even get to the playoffs. I know the players are, not necessarily the franchise, but go be aggressive and drop 27 and 7 and be that guy and let everyone else revolve around you. And we've seen him in stretches be that guy. But then for whatever reason this year he didn't, because he wanted to facilitate more, and that just destroyed him. So what he did last night and what he was doing prior to the little slump is what he needs to be doing regardless of if he's in the backcourt with Scoot or not.
Well, that's where his talents are anyway.
Yeah, he's a scorer.
I mean, nobody who evaluates him and says you're going to be an old school
Stockton, right?
Yeah, or you're not Rory Sparrow. You're not setting people up. Like, score, dude. Like
Rory Sparrow.
I gotta go old school every once in a while.
But damn, you could have given me a Rod Strickland.
Hey, but Rory Sparrow was a starting point guard in the NBA for a long time. But that was back in the day when they got 11 points a game was high.
I know, but he wasn't a guy that you think of as a master facilitator. If you were gonna go Knicks facilitator, give me Strickland or someone like that. Anyway,
well, that guy was he was a great scorer. I'm just saying, like, that's his talent.
Yeah,
and we always joke a little bit. I always say, like, in the NBA, you're going to score 100, somebody's going to get 20. Well, the Blazers haven't managed to get somebody averaging 20, and it should be him.
But someone gets 20 every night, almost.
Most of the time. But I'm just saying, like, he's the guy. I agree. He is not going to be he should not be a pass first point guard, because he's a dynamic offensive player who is supposed to be an elite shooter, and he hasn't been. So it's nice to see him go be aggressive like that. But it is, interesting to see how, I got to say, like, these lineup changes, they shouldn't impact him anymore. He should just be him. And he's
struggling with what that means, though.
I know.
The whole season.
And that's a problem.
And I've asked Billups, and Billups has told me, I want Ant to be Ant. But I mean, you have to be mindful of not being just, a super gunner and ignoring people. Yes. But if you're the best scorer on the team and the most experienced scorer on the team, your shot selection,
and the best option.
Right. Your shot selection still needs to be good, but you need to be aggressive with it and not feel badly about it. It's just, if another point guard brings it up and gets it to you and you shoot, that should be no different than you brought it up and, oh, look, I can get this shot right here and get it up. And no one's going to be pissed, especially when you're making them. So just be that guy. And then naturally the passes are going to come because they're going to start blitzing you, right? And then you can pass off, or you penetrate, you kick it out. The things will come to you. The assists will come that way. Anyway, so we agree on that. But here's what's interesting. So now let's talk about Scoot. So Scoot drops 39. They get blown out by the Nets. You and I talked about it. We both agreed, maybe not a sign that he's turned the corner. But since then, 18-8, 50 and 40 shooting. So he's still playing really well since that game. He was starting for a couple nights. Then he went to the bench, came off the bench for 21 and 11. Didn't phase him going to the bench. And so we're starting to get, still a small sample size, but let's see how things go. But if it gets to the point where it's like, okay, Scoot is balling, this makes Ant expendable. Do you pull the trigger on trying to move him, or do you need to wait? If a great deal comes, it comes. But do you need to still wait to see more from Scoot and see how Ant continues to evolve and make that decision in the summer? Yeah. Because one's got to go at some point.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is I don't think Scoot gets to go. I think, the way those contracts are, you can't trade that. You wouldn't trade that contract even if he's at all productive. And if he's not productive, no one wants him for anything. And so what are you doing? So I just...
Well, it depends on what you get back, though. Because what
are you going to get back for Scoot if you moved off him?
Okay. Well, yeah. I hear what you're saying, but let's say Ant had done what I thought he was going to do and established himself as the guy, and Scoot struggled, right? You'd have to say to yourself, okay, Ant's our lead guard. Do we move Scoot to get? Hold on, listen.
No, I'm with you. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at the situation.
But you get back a player that fits your roster better, but maybe also hasn't reached their potential yet, right? So that team's willing to take a chance on Scoot, and you're going to take a chance on that guy. Or if Scoot had elevated himself all season, and Ayton, damn, I keep saying Ayton when I want to say Ant.
Simons.
And Ant had elevated themselves. Now you have two, then you do what Sacramento did with Halliburton.
Yeah.
And you trade for a high-end player back. But my overall point is that those two in the backcourt, I've said this before, I will never take the Blazers seriously if they have those two starting full-time in the backcourt, because that'll always end up being a liability in the end. So I think we need to see more from Scoot. But Scoot playing well and Ant having an off season really, really makes things a little difficult unless they get a legitimate, just like, oh yeah, we can't pass that offer up for Ant. Oh, I said Ant that time.
Well, I agree. I mean, right now, you're not, even by February 11th, you're not going to, or February 6th, sorry.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
You're not going to have enough to say, oh, I think he's an elite point guard in the NBA, or at least a good starting point guard. But so I don't think I think this is the problem from the get-go, and we've talked about it. Like, this is your situation. Like, what was your plan? Because to me, it's like, what was your plan from the get-go?
I told you what it was.
Yeah, but it's not like the plan in the beginning. It's not a great plan. Okay, having three starting point guards was your hope. That was your hope, to have three starting point guards. Yeah, because you didn't want to when you originally drafted Scoot.
You're going back to Dame?
I'm going back to this. What did the front office think best case scenario was? I don't know. I still don't know.
The best case scenario was they were going to draft Scoot for now and the future and trade Ant. Absolutely, 100%.
And play Dame and Scoot together? I mean,
no. They were going to, until they traded Ant, Dame and Ant would start together. If they were able to move off of Ant, then they would rearrange the decks on the Titanic and have Scoot coming off the bench. But that, again, the mentality was that Scoot was going to come into the league warranting rotational minutes on a team trying to make a playoff.
Ja Morant, basically.
Yeah, and that didn't happen. So their plan coming into this season, though, was to hope Scoot elevates and that Ant elevates. And instead, they both crashed and burned until the last couple of weeks. Yeah. Ant played better until the 3-game stretch, and Scoot's been playing better for now 6 games. So this is what they hope to see from day one. And sometimes it doesn't, at the end of the day, it matters that you get there. The question is it sustainable? We know Ant is capable of doing the things he's done because he's done them in big enough chunks. The problem is there's always been so many changing things around him that he has not adapted well to. Scoot's the biggest mystery. But this is a long stretch now where he's played really well. However, if you go back to late last season,
he had a run.
He had several stretches where he was playing a lot better statistically, and then he came into the year playing poorly. But late last year, everything was over. There was zero pressure. Because they were in full-on tank mode. He was playing with a bunch of guys who won't be here in a few years, and Ayton, who won't be here in a few years. So we need to see a larger sample size. But still, I've gone from when he shoots a 3 thinking no way to thinking he could make a swish,
maybe,
and he's hitting them. And everyone's talking about how his balance is better on his shot, which is leading to more consistency, and we're seeing it. And just this one stretch elevated his 3-point shooting from 29.9 entering the stretch to 35 now. But but right now it's a false 35, right? Because you're not going to shoot. Counting the Nets game, he's at 50% from 3. Well, that's not going to be. I mean, Steph never did that, right? So that's a fluke run, elevating bad play for many, many weeks to make the stat look good. But right now it's kind of a false stat because for the most of the season, he hasn't been anywhere near that. So we need to see him shooting 35, 38 for the rest of the season to feel like, oh, okay, this guy's shot is coming around.
And I also against the Bulls, he got fouled when he needed points. You know what I mean? Like he went and...
Was that the 12 for 12?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. At least I believe. And that matters to me, making the right pass, not turning the ball over, and getting to the line, being aggressive, and not just blowing layups. Like we've seen a lot of that, out of control or getting a shot blocked. And look, he could throw the alley-oop to Ayton. We know that. Like he could throw the alley-oop.
That's been nice. Coming around a lot.
Yeah, lately. That's really nice. I mean, it's been a nice run. There's nothing I could say negative other than what you said. Like it's not long enough to buy in and believe yet, but it's been good. It's been nice, and I'm hopeful. When you see, I mean, especially, he shot 8 for 10 or whatever it was in the 39-pointer from 3, and that's fluke for any shooter. I mean, sure, you expect it from Dame and Steph and guys like that, and you don't expect it from Scoot, but whenever that happens. Nobody's going to shoot 80% from 3 for any kind of time. So I like seeing it. And the truth is, playing him is what matters now, to see that. So I was wondering when Sharpe got benched, and we can talk about that next, for quote unquote defense.
One real quick clarity.
Go ahead.
Let me clarify. So the 12 for 12 free throws was at Dallas when he had 20 and 4. But
what do you do against Chicago?
He was 6 for 8 against the Bulls and 6 for 6 against Houston, which if he's going to be penetrating, which is his best attribute, to get fouls and get cheap points. And I talked to Dave Fleming, assistant coach, who was hired specifically to work with Scoot and who did wonders for Kobe White in Chicago. And he talked about Scoot's ability to finish, which you just mentioned had been a problem, is improving. And then, of course, drawing fouls. So if he can get into the lane, either finish, draw fouls, or kick it out to a shooter, you got yourself a legit point guard who's going to give you 18 and 10. So.
James Harden, I think, makes 1 out of every 4 layups, but he gets fouled on 2 of them. I mean, it's part of the game. You know what I mean?
It's true.
So
it's true.
If you can, he knows how to get fouled. He doesn't even try sometimes to make the layup. He's just trying to get fouled. And I saw a little bit of that. Oh. Yep. Shot clock winding down, and Scoot got fouled, and they gave it to him. So I've enjoyed that. My thing is, like, if Simons did come back, my thought, and I texted you, Simons had 3 awful games, and he was hurt. So Billups didn't have to there was no decision technically on.
You wasn't going to bench him off 3 games.
But I'm just saying, like, eventually, if Scoot's consistently playing really well and Simons continued to struggle that much, what would you do? Like, would he be willing to? Yeah.
He struggled like he did in those 3 games? Well, yeah.
I'm just saying it's an interesting dynamic the Blazers have, because what you just said, it's like you need Scoot to take the steps, but you can't do that in 18 minutes a game.
He didn't
necessarily.
Okay. First of all, he played whatever he was playing. Was it only 18?
No. I'm just saying, like.
Okay, so he and Sharpe so a bunch of people on Twitter were whining about Sharpe getting benched and just making ridiculous claims, and it made it obvious they'd never played sports in their life. You can just sometimes tell the things people whine about. They don't understand the dynamics of some of this stuff. Scoot gets as many minutes as he warrants based on his play, whether he starts or not. If he comes off the bench, he's crushing it, he's getting 30, right? If he comes off the bench and he stinks, he's getting 15 or 18, right? So, and you develop based on how you practice, how you work on your skills, and then you go out there and you perform. Had Ant play as poorly as they did those 3 games for like 2 weeks, then they might make a decision. But like I was telling people yesterday, you can't just bench Ayton, Grant, and Ant, because even if they're not a part of your future, you hope to get something for them. And nothing ruins their trade value more than saying, man, these guys suck, we're just going to bench them for a bunch of little kids. No offense, I'm not trying to be... In the NBA world, Donovan Clingan, Sharpe, and Scoot are little kids in the grand scheme of the NBA. You do that, you bury their trade value. And regardless of their ups and downs, I said this the other day, you give me the 3 veterans against Sharpe, Clingan, and Henderson, and then surround them with the same supporting cast, the veteran team sweeps that other team in a series. Yeah. And they sweep them. They destroy them. So you can't become infatuated or seduced by the hot flash moments by the young guy, and someone like Grant might be struggling. Grant's a better basketball player than Scoot Henderson right now, period, regardless of whether he's struggling, regardless of Scoot's last week. So you still got to play those guys, because either A, they're going to be really good and help you, or they're going to be really good and you're going to trade them. So you can't bench them. As far as Sharpe goes, Sharpe is a kid who needs to be taught lessons and needs to learn accountability. And sometimes how you do that is when they're not doing the things they're supposed to do. This is the coverage, this is our defense, and they muck it up, which messes it up for everybody else. Yep. You got to get a message to them like, okay, if you're not performing just the simple tasks we're asking you to do on defense, you got to come off the bench now. Now, Sharpe took it like an adult and was cool with it and came out and played 33 minutes, had 25 points against Chicago.
He played 33 minutes off the bench, which is like basically the same as he played starting. So it didn't matter.
But he felt like he played much better defensively that game because he got the message. And Billups
said he did too.
So,
and
so it's a learning experience for our kid who's 21, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. So I thought that whole thing was handled perfectly. I think Sharpe's going to learn from that. The other thing about Sharpe too, though, and I think this might lead to the fact that he might have these lapses. Not only is he such a kid, but he's really not, at least not publicly, impacted by something like being benched.
Yep.
So I think internally the message will be sent and he'll learn from it, but I don't think that's a fear. And so he doesn't. I asked him, I said, why does this happen? He goes, I just, I sometimes lose focus. So you're a kid, right? Kids lose focus. And so hopefully he'll learn from that lesson. And whether it bothers him if he started or not, at the end of the day, he's still getting a message, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, and I think the Blazers are at this point that they know the talent's there. He's played enough minutes now that he should have certain things that he's doing. And he should be consistent on some things. And he's not.
Right.
And I think they're realizing that that will affect his ceiling.
100%. And Billups has said that. He wants him to be, if he's going to be great, he's got to be a good two-way player. And Sharpe said the same thing. I think he sees something in me and knows I have to be good on defense to be a great player. And when guys are getting benched like this, they're not getting benched because they're not perfectly executing a new coverage or concept. It's because they've demonstrated you can do A, right, well. And then all of a sudden, they just stop doing that. Yeah. And you get on them, and they just stop. They're not doing it. And you get on them, and they're not doing it. And it's affecting everyone else. And other guys get pissed. Why is Sharpe not rotating over? Why is Sharpe's guy just blowing right by him because his footwork is bad? Why? And so you have to send a message because the veterans want to know. Now, some people say, well, what about Ayton? Ayton goes out there and coasts. Well, you're right. Ayton sometimes goes out there and coasts, but who's going to start over Ayton? Clinton can't play more than 20 minutes.
Robert Williams can only play.
Been hurt. And Robert Williams has been out. He's only played 12 or 13 games. Right.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, even Ayton dogging it every other game is better than both those guys.
And it doesn't make it okay. And it is infuriating to people as well. So it's not like it goes, they don't,
but he'll pull Ayton. He's pulled Ayton from games, but he's not to the point yet where he's going to bench him. Because again, it's a veteran guy. Same thing with Grant. You're talking about veteran guys who make a ton of money and you need their value to somehow get elevated so you can move them for something. So you know.
And you know what the upside is for certain players. And with Sharpe, you don't. I mean, there's this expectation of he's a star, star in the making. But stars can't, they gotta care. I mean, the NBA, elite athleticism does not make you a star. It helps, but we have seen tons of elite athletes not elevate their ways to superstardom. And we've seen a bunch of guys that are not necessarily elite, and they're all elite athletes, let's be honest. But you know what I'm saying? For the NBA, being able to jump out of the gym, being fast, being able to hit a layup that nobody else can make doesn't make you a star. It makes you a slam dunk champ, and we've seen a ton of slam dunk champs not be stars. Heck, the 2 years in a row, the slam dunk champ comes from the G League. So, we've seen that a million times that there's not that. That's not the guarantee. So,
another thing on Sharpe too is he's shooting 31.2% from three. Now we've cracked on Scoot for his lack of shooting, and now,
but it's like
last year he was 33. His rookie year he was 36, but on fewer shots. But right now, through 2 seasons, he's been mediocre. Not even mediocre. He's not been good. Sharpe from three. That has to change.
And also, he doesn't take control of games where people are worried about him yet.
Yeah.
They let him shoot. He has highlights, which Scoot has not. He's got the dunks and the putbacks where you go crazy and you're like, oh my gosh, we lost by 22, but did you see Sharpe's dunk? And that's what people love that. And with Scoot, he's not he doesn't do that, even though we thought he would. But I've said that all along about Sharpe, is that consistency on offense too. I don't think this is just they highlighted the defense, but there are times where he takes bad shots. Like, whoa, you think you're a 4 second into the shot clock 3-point shooter? Because I have
a deep three too.
I have not seen that. I have not seen that. You know, you're not. I mean, Dame used to do that, and it would frustrate people. And you're like, well, he earned that. But Sharpe will do that. I'm like, whoa. Like, and not understand the game flow too. It's like, it's a 6-0 run. You're up 8. They go on a 6-0 run. And you think that's the time to shoot the three with 22 seconds on the shot clock, and you miss, they come down, of course, because it's a long rebound, get an N1, and oh boy, like the momentum has just shifted. So, and I think you're right. You could see that's not, he doesn't get all that yet. And Billups, I think this was a good way of saying, hey, we've done a little evaluation, like we finished the semester and the grading's in, and we're gonna hold you back until you get to that.
One of my pet peeves about the increased volume of 3-point shooting around the league is that there are it's one thing if you shoot a lot of threes because you're getting a lot of open looks for good 3-point shooters. But there's too many players in the league who all think they're Steph Curry and will come down and take these deep threes and take threes early in the shot clock, and they're shooting 31%. Like Shaedon Sharpe. But I've never heard or seen any moment where they've really gotten on him about that. Maybe they want him to just keep cranking them because they figure, A, if he's making them, he's developing. B, if he's missing them, he's helping us lose. All right, so speaking of losing, real quick, they got at Orlando. This is one of the games where I'm saying there's no way they're going to win. I've done that like 5 or 6 times this season where they absolutely won. Charlotte is a game they definitely could win. After that, listen to this. They come home. OKC, Milwaukee, Orlando again, Phoenix, Indiana, Sacramento, which is red hot, at Minnesota, at Denver, before the break.
Yeah, so Phoenix are the most winnable games right now because they stink.
They do stink.
So unless Jimmy Butler's on that roster by the time they play, those are winnable games against Phoenix because gosh knows what's going on. But yeah,
I'm going to say at best 3-7. And that's just based on the fact that it's the NBA and anything can happen, just like they just beat, the Heat.
Right. They beat Charlotte, they beat Phoenix once and pick another one.
Right.
Yeah, I'm with you. And if they went 1-9, I wouldn't be like crazy. They went 2-8. And if they go, I would be surprised if they go 4-6, When they win 2 in a row, like I am surprised. I'll admit it. If they win 3 in a row, I'm shocked.
They've only done it once this season. And
they're not trying.
That's how it should be. Right. But they need to pick up the pace now. We're past the midway mark. Okay. They need to stop messing around. Because they're gonna blow it, man. They're gonna blow a shot at Cooper Flag. They're gonna have like the 7th or 8th worst record, begging for a miracle. And they're gonna end up with the 6th pick. And
it's the worst. This is the worst about being with a team like that. I mean, I'm a Giant fan, right? I mean, we won a game and we're now the 3rd pick. And if quarterbacks go 1-2, and if Sanders or Ward turns into Jaden Daniels, I'm just going to cry my soup for a decade. You know what I mean? Like, because we didn't get a quarterback last time. And it just, look at Washington. It just changes everything. If you look at the Spurs 3 times and the lottery wins have changed the course of their franchise.
Unbelievable luck for that franchise.
And for the Blazers, it's been the opposite.
Yep.
But it's just, you're right. Like if you end up with pick 4 or 5 and it's a even if it's a decent guy, but like right now we're at, you got 2 7s and a 3 and nothing. Your franchise has not found its guy. And Cooper Flag seems pretty good. So I'm with you.
So real quick, wait, did I want to? Oh, trade buzz, trade deadline next 2 weeks. Still no real buzz. Robert Williams' name's being thrown out there, maybe second round picks at the most. But I love what Phoenix did. You see what Phoenix did?
Oh yeah, move picks for picks.
Utah gave them 3 first-round picks, or the worst of a group of picks the next few years. And that includes picks from Cleveland and what's the other one? Minnesota. Two really good teams. So their picks are going to be late in the first round. And then 6 years out, Utah gets Phoenix's unprotected first round pick.
2031, right?
Way past Durant, clearly. Maybe a Booker still be around, but maybe he moves on as a veteran or whatever. So you're gambling there, but that could be a pick that's top 5, maybe. And I just think that's planning ahead genius, right? And playing against Phoenix some picks now that they can dangle out in deals with teams to try and get something back. So if I'm Portland, I mean, do I try and jump in there and see what I can swing if they're going to throw me a pick?
Yeah, sure do.
We'll give you Ayton back.
I'm just saying Utah's like
give me a pick.
Utah's one of the youngest teams in the NBA. Even with marketing and some others, they're so young, and then they just got like a bag full of picks, and they can turn those into stuff, you hope. But you know what? I'm always saying picks are picks, man. Like, because we're sitting here with, it's funny because the Knicks got a bunch of picks, but they made deals for players, and that's what you got to do to win. On the Knicks, they're not playing with any of their draft picks. None of them are their draft picks that matter. Like Brunson, no. OG, no. Hart, no. Karl Anthony Towns, no. Bridges, no. None of them were draft picks. They all traded stuff to get them. And in this, if you win the lottery and both ways, you win the pick and you win the lottery picking the right guy, right? I mean, Luka changes your franchise. Steph changes your franchise. And they're not number 1 overalls.
Right.
But right now, the Blazers have 3 top 10 picks, and none of them have changed their franchise. That we know of yet, maybe. So, again, I love getting picks, but that kind of stuff is all filled with hope.
So right now they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th worst record, but Hornets have won 3 in a row. New Orleans has won 4 in a row because the players are getting back. They're only 4 or 5 wins out of the bottom 3. 4 wins out of the bottom 3. So they can just, it's there for the taking, man. You just gotta just do some stuff, and you can just fall like a rock in 2 or 3 weeks. So we'll see what happens. All right, that's it. Good work.
We were excited. We were so excited in the beginning, and then we came back down to earth.
Right. All right, that's it for the Blazer Focus podcast. We'll be back next week to check in with this team. Hopefully it's not a complete free fall in terms of good storylines, but losing would not be the worst thing to have happen to this franchise in the next couple of weeks. Check in.